Je pensais qu'une princesse pouvait aller où elle voulait.
Pas cette princesse.
Vous me faites confiance?
Ne ferme pas les yeux et contemple ses merveilles.
Je suis monté trop, allé trop loin.
Nous vivons ce rêve merveilleux.
Hey everybody. I love it, it's starting already, all right?
That means you're not excited enough.
Guys, welcome. It's so great to have you here in Paris. Just kind of a first general question for everybody, and then we'll get to the journalist questions. What did Aladdin mean to you, all of you, and why did you want to be part of this live-action film? Mina?
Thanks, Mina.
Yes, when I hear your name, it just...
For me, you know, it was one of the only Disney films growing up where I could really relate to the character. You know, this was someone that looked like me and had a similar culture to mine. So I just really related to it, and we had it playing on at the house all the time, so...
Yeah, for me, me and my brother, it was our favourite movie, and I think that we could share in that because it's not just a movie for little girls, it's for little boys as well. You have everything, you have action, it's cheeky, it's fun, it's adventurous, and of course, you know, obviously Princess Jasmine, I could play her, you know, as a young girl, which Mina just touched upon is really quite powerful and important.
Will, how about you?
Yeah, for me... So I was like, whoa, is this thing on? No, for me, it was you know, of course, the music of it. I was a little older than you guys when it just a little smidge, when it came out. But for me, the Robin Williams of it as a comedian, as a performer, yeah, that you know, he revolutionized what you could do in those kinds of movies. It was modern references, and he really put a signature on a Disney movie that you really hadn't seen anyone do in that way. So for me as a performer, it was something that I was really impressed and excited by.
Guy, how about you?
For me, I live in a house with 5 kids, so I had no choice. They couldn't really watch my other movies.
Why not?
So there was a general consensus that this is what I was going to do. And you know, when we first had a chat with Disney, and then I told the kids about it, there was a riot, and I could see there was no coming back from that.
Brownie points.
So that's, you know, and I found it in. There was all sorts of things in there which, you know, it was enough of my old stuff and it could give me enough of the new stuff. So that was enough for me. That was terribly exciting, but as excited as my children were.
I bet. Alan, how about for you coming back to it 25 years later?
Well, it's incredible coming back to it. But with Guy directing, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if the magic carpet was going to get blown out of the sky mid-flight. But it's been an amazing journey because we kind of came to this place together where he was, I think, suspicious of musicals, and I didn't know where we were going to go with it, but we found this place together that we never would have gotten to otherwise.
There was a real enthusiasm from all people concerned. From the beginning, there was an unstoppable momentum of enthusiasm for everyone concerned, and the challenge was always seen as a positive challenge. It was never negative.
Oh, it was wonderful.
I gotta be honest, when I first heard it was Guy Ritchie, I was like, huh. But no,
I was like, that's the reason I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly, no, that's what it turned into for sure after that first time we talked.
Yeah.
All right, let's turn to some of your questions. I think we have a first one here.
Hi, thanks for being here. The movie was great, fantastic.
Keep going, keep going.
Well, that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen.
No, Will, love you. Naomi, love you. And then Mina, mashallah. That's all I can say. Big question.
What about me? I'm like chopped liver.
Love you all. So the question is in 2 parts. So first part is, what was the biggest challenge for all of you during the set and preparation and all that stuff? And what was your favorite moment during all this production? Thank you.
All right, let's start with the challenge. Guy?
Thank you. I think really it's a repetition of my previous answer. It was the enthusiasm of the group. The group was so excited and so enthusiastic, and I share Will's sentiment that this was my favourite and most enjoyable creative challenge. I loved it from the beginning to the end, and I'm still loving the process now. But it was all of those little challenges that we came across. It was a group effort to transcend them, and it always felt like when we found the answer that we all agreed on that. It didn't feel like we needed to force an agenda or force a particular point of view. It very much felt like the film was being made by the cast and the filmmaker.
How about a favourite moment from all of you? What one sticks out in your mind? Naomi, Will.
What do you got? You got one? Do you have one?
Mine was speechless, but I feel like that's kind of you go.
No, that was mine.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll go then, guys. I think for me there was a lot of favourite moments. I mean, being on set with Will Smith every day, that was always a favourite moment.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
I'll pay you later. But yeah, no, I think for me, Speechless was just such a powerful moment. You know, for me, that song has so much in it, so much messaging in it, and I think I took kind of the weight of what that song means to, you know, and how it's so relatable to so many people, how it's so timely, and I think that's what I took on that day, and it was a really emotional day, wasn't it, guys? Like, and it was lovely because you guys were there as well, so I was sharing it with you, and kind of going into the zone, and Guy, like...
Well, I was crying before you were crying.
Yeah, I know. The fact that I made Guy Ritchie cry, that's my takeaway from this. Yeah, literally.
Thank you, Mina.
And actually, you know, I didn't know what I was going to add to the score, and then when I collaborated with these guys, Pasek and Paul, Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, who wrote La La Land, the lyrics of La La Land, and Dear Evan Hansen and Ray the Showman. And I've known them since they were young kids, but we had never worked together. We got in the room and said, okay, we're going to write this song for Jasmine. And then when we finished this song, we said, this is something really special. And then you first heard it.
Oh my gosh!
You overheard us put, right?
Well, so we were rehearsing before we'd even, you know, shot anything. And I was walking past a room, and I promise you, I had no idea about this new song, and I just heard you going, da 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 da, and I went, that's the new song. I just knew it, and I like knocked on the door, and I was like, that's the new song, isn't it? And then just like walked out. It was amazing. You just know when something's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it definitely raised the bar for us, and also it gave us a challenge too, because this is a big new element in the story, and we really kept, you know, for instance, Jasmine not feeling that she has a voice and not feeling that she's heard, and then having this song really pushed us to new places.
Will, you were going to weigh in on either your challenge or your favorite moment. Which one?
Oh, the challenge for me, of course, was the level of the performance that Robin Williams gave in the first film. It's like, you know, when you look at something like that, it's really daunting. I was terrified with the idea. I was honored by the request, but I was just listening. I just couldn't find what do you add to that. And then the first thing is that it was going to be live action. So I was like, okay, the fact that it's live action, that there's you know, acting, and there's comedy and drama that you'll be able to do that will add a different flavor. And then the first day I got in and started messing with Friend Like Me. That was the first song that I played around with. And then in that moment, I found the genie, the idea, adding the hip-hop flavor to the genie, and then it exploded for me. It was like, oh, what Robin did is he used his personality. He used himself as the genie, and then in that moment, it was like, oh, I'll use my, you know, history. Yes.
Because I haven't told you this before. Your performance is so amazing.
It's amazing.
It is so, in every moment.
Killed it.
From now on, you are the genie, I promise you.
Yeah!
No one else no one else that could have done it.
Thank you, thank you, thank
And
you.
it's beautiful what you're saying, because that's sort of the theme of the whole movie, isn't it? Is you have to kind of touch back into yourself, and that's what Aladdin finds, and that's what you found.
Yes, absolutely.
Well done. Another question here. Who's got one?
Bonjour, une question pour Guy Ritchie. Votre Yasmine a trouvé sa place et sa puissance dans son royaume, mais c'est un film extrêmement féministe. Et j'ai même cru remarquer, alors peut-être que je me trompe, que vous avez poussé la parité jusqu'à, pour l'entrée du prince Ali dans son royaume, à faire une évocation de l'entrée de Liz Taylor dans le Cléopâtre de Mankiewicz.
Attends un peu. First of all...
Wait, let me just translate the question.
No.
First of all, he got it.
This lot think I speak French now. So we're going to hang that out for another 10 seconds. And now you can translate.
So the question for you guys, that's a good joke. The question for you guys, he's saying, you know, loving the way Jasmine is so much stronger in this film, the feminist bent to it, but he's wondering if in the entrance in Prince Ali, it's sort of an homage to Cleopatra and Liz Taylor coming in. Were you thinking of that as you were doing that scene?
I recognise the similarity there. Is there two questions going on here? There's one's Cleopatra.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just one.
Just one.
Yes, I recognise the similarity.
Can I also?
No, but was that going through your mind at all? Or talk to us about making the film more feminist, if you like.
Well, what happened is that in an animated film, and particularly of that period, you could polarise and make your characters. You could polarise them in a sense that was more consistent with the of the time, and since then, live action you need to become more nuanced. So the characters need depth in a way that you really didn't have time for in the original. So it seemed like there was a natural evolution that Jasmine would become a more evolved character. And that happens to be in keeping with the times, but not one led the other. You know, we weren't subservient to that. It just felt like a natural evolution to get us there. And in terms of Cleopatra, it was only halfway through that dance sequence that we had this conversation. Does anyone make dance sequences that big anymore? There were 1,000 dancers there on the day, and they've been rehearsing for 6 weeks. I'm not sure if they do that in any film anymore. So the Cleopatra...
Outside India.
Alan, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually built into Howard Ashman's and my original concept for Aladdin going way back was an homage to Golden Age of Hollywood and their take on the mysterious East, and it was also very much an homage to the Hope and Crosby Road pictures. So it's really fitting that you had that kind of grandeur to those moments.
Une autre question? Yes, yeah, right here. Who's got the mic?
Oui, une question pour Guy Ritchie. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous parler de l'apport de l'influence bollywoodienne, indienne, etc. Tout ce qui concerne un petit peu les costumes, la musique, l'esthétique du film, dans quelle mesure cet apport-là, comment ça s'est fait?
Okay.
That's something about Bollywood, isn't
it? Yes. So there's a question for you guys, just about the influence of Bollywood in the film, via the costumes, the big spectacle, the big numbers.
I think this is more for Naomi, isn't it?
Well, I'd say yes, there definitely was. I mean, when I saw that, I think what was so amazing is even down to the costumes, there was such a mix of everything. I mean, Michael Wilkinson, who is just so incredible, he literally went to everywhere in the world to find like the perfect material, and as Will was talking about earlier, I think it's such a wonderful mix and clash of these worlds, this kind of Eastern world, and you know, even with our choreographer Jamal Sims, you know, adding that flavour of his hip hop sensibility, you know, Will's hip hop sensibility, which I think just makes everything really fresh and new for a modern audience.
Anna, oui, go ahead. The mic right here. Oh, here we go. Yes.
Oui, c'est une question pour Guy Ritchie. Dans votre univers en tant que réalisateur, il y a souvent la différence de classe, voire la lutte des classes qui apparaît. Est-ce que c'est ça qui vous a intéressé dans Aladdin et il me paraît que vous avez poussé un petit peu plus dans celui-là?
Just another question for you, Guy. Talking about how in your films often this theme of class difference, the struggle between the classes comes out, was that what attracted you to this film?
Well, there was enough kind of old familiarity of, I suppose, my first films are sort of street-based, if you will. So there was enough of that for me to feel familiar, and there was enough exotic, challenging one which I had never been into before, which in no small way is a family film. So it felt like I was familiar enough with the what I am familiar with in terms of my frequency, and it gave me enough of excitement as a director to find new terroir to explore that. But yeah, as I say, I live with a lot of children, so it felt like it was the perfect combination that I could marry two worlds.
Also, Guy, you're so known for the action scenes in your movie. Mina, you had to play out a lot of those action scenes, a lot of the stunt work. What was that like for you? And I heard at one point you even had a camera strapped on your body to film some of the scenes yourself?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Guy whipped that up. Yeah, I had 6 weeks of prep, and I found out I got cast. And then 2 days later, I flew to London to start prep. So I kind of just threw myself into the work and started working with the stunt team. And we started doing some boxing to kind of loosen my body up and get me used to doing the parkour and all the movements. And that was something that I was excited about when I heard Guy was directing, is all the action that he does. So I knew he'd make Aladdin and the sequences really cool, and that's something we often talked about, actually, is how do we make him sentimental enough that he's there to support the female lead in Jasmine, but also how do we make little boys look up to him and like want to be him, you know? He's got to kind of do it all in that way.
Alors, une autre question. Qui a le microphone? Mais voilà.
Hi. I have a question for Mr. Ritchie, but people can answer. What is your favorite shot of the movie and the hardest one to shoot?
Quelle scène préférée? En fait, quelle image? Voilà. Un shot, voilà, quel plan?
I'm going to turn to the team on this, actually. I have the brain of goldfish. So sadly, I'm sitting here forgetting which film I'm sitting here for.
Will, what was your favorite shot?
We'll take your grandpa.
Well, you saw it a lot in different frame rates, right?
Yeah.
That was different on this film?
The day that I was like, oh my goodness, this movie's never going to be finished, is the Prince Ali, when you wanted to do the single shot down the street with the parade. So in the parade scene, you know, so we're out there, there's elephants and horses and monkeys and birds and 1,000 dancers, and so we do a shot, and I have the big headpiece on, and we come down the middle of the road. So we come down, and there's a single shot that probably gets half or 3/4 of the song done as we go down the road, and then cut. And the reset to do a second take was 30 minutes. So it took 30 minutes to get the elephants to agree to go back to the beginning, get the horses and everything to go back, and everybody had to go and turn around and come back, and it was 30 minutes to get another shot. And I thought that you know, I admired your commitment to having the shot the way that you wanted it on that day, and I appreciated the time in my trailer.
But it looked amazing.
It looked amazing,
right? It looked awesome.
I tell you, there's something that we all enjoyed, actually, was the last thing we did.
Oh yes,
oh yeah,
that was so much fun.
It was fun.
What was that?
Yeah, you weren't there that day.
It's the wedding.
Like the wedding.
The wedding, yeah.
The wedding dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so much fun, wasn't it?
Which I think is probably the longest single shot in the film.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure, and again, this is something that we made up on the day, more or less. We weren't sure if we could do it as one shot, but it's the final shot of the film. Yeah. It is the final shot of the film. So I think that is the longest shot, and Mr. Sims, who was the choreographer, who we all sort of fell in love with during the process. I mean, talk about positive attitude from everyone that was involved. The choreographer was particularly enthusiastic, and that, you know, as everyone knows in this room, enthusiasm is contagious. So we gave him this challenge to work out a dance sequence at the end, and we thought, is it possible to do it in one shot? Anyway, it transpired that it was, and I suspect this may be because it's the last thing I can remember. I suspect that probably is my favourite shot in the movie.
And you had to crouch down, do you remember? Like
Yeah,
for the whole
yeah.
thing,
No,
and then
there
it's
was
like,
there was a lot
and
of-
go, boom, and then he's up there.
Popping up for the front.
Exactly, for the-
Yeah, and I had to go around and then come back up
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
hide behind the camera and then pop out for the last. So yeah, that one was really great. You know what? There really is. There really is a Disney magic inside these movies, right? And it's like the set took on the beauty and the fun and the energy of the concepts, and I think that's a part of what I loved and what was such a beautiful experience together. The magic in the ideas of be yourself, and it's like you will find the love that you desire in that person that will cherish you if you surrender into who and what you are. And then the idea also of the genie, to me, I feel like that genie concept is a really central idea to what love is supposed to mean between human beings. That you're willing to, do anything that you can do to help someone create the life that they want to create. And you do it selflessly without any desire, any personal selfish desire in return. So I love those ideas created a magical, beautiful energy between us all on set.
And I'd just like to say as well, your generosity as an actor, and me and Mina spoke about this, because for us it was a huge thing, and we're kind of fresher in that sense, and you just set the tone on set. And I think that connects to your character. You were so generous, both off and on screen. And for us as young actors, it just made our experience so magical. And I think that I really do believe that translated on screen. I think that's what connects everything as well.
And I connect to the look of the movie as the person who scored it also, because I would sit with every cell and cell, every shot. Sorry, I'm in animation again. And the transitions were so stunning. Like the transition with you waiting for Aladdin and then watching him go to the Cave of Wonders. It's a gorgeous transition. It's just magical.
I feel as though I need to riff on the very thing that Naomi was saying about. You have at the beginning of a day something called a call sheet, which tells everyone who's doing what to whom. And there's number one on the call sheet, and there's some egotism that goes with that particular position. And traditionally, it can be quite tricky for the director to have to negotiate a deal with number one on the call sheet. And in the movies that I've made, this was the most pleasurable experience that I ever had with number one on the call sheet. Thank you, Mina.
To be clear, it wasn't on
to the point that when I got there as the director, number one on the call sheet was sort of waiting there, tapping his toes, waiting for the director to get there. That's never the case. It's usually the other way around. And the endless generosity that number one on the call sheet exercised really set the tone and the frequency for the positive experience that it was for all of us. Thank you very much, Naomi.
Again, no, don't worry.
All right, who else has got another question here? Who's got the microphone, please?
Hi guys, first thank you very much, the movie was lovely. I've got a question for you all, well, two actually. I'm wondering, what do you think makes Aladdin a fitting story to adapt in 2019? And also, how do you think this movie's going to fit in your respective careers?
Well, I think what's interesting about the way that they fall in love and the experiences that they have, and I have a 25-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old daughter at home right now. So how children are relating in this digital era in terms of finding love and finding partners and creating relationships. I think that how this film will fit is it's that really old-fashioned way that people would meet and actually talk. you know, and you overcome the challenges and obstacles to the relationship and not taking it down to a swipe, you know, one direction or the other. So I think that there will be an interesting thing for the younger generation to feel and experience in the Aladdin and Jasmine interaction. So that, you know, it'll be talking to my daughter about that. Her reaction was really interesting in how she took it, how she yearned for it a little bit, but there was some part of it that felt farther out of reach than I think it did for our generations.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think now more than ever, young people, including myself, struggle with figuring out who they are as people, because social media certainly does not help your search on personal identity. And this film, at the end of the day, especially for Aladdin, he's going on this search for his personal identity. Is he good enough, like, as who he is? Does he have things to offer that are of value? And I think that's important to teach to kids, that who you are as a human being and the values that you have are good enough to get you what you want and to help you follow your dreams. So that's a really important lesson, I think.
How about the second part of that question? How you see this movie will be fitting into the grand scope of your careers?
Guy?
Anybody?
Everyone down this way. It's hard to tell. I mean, it's the film that I'm most proud of, actually. And it's the one that I enjoyed the most.
Did you get that?
But, you know, actually, just to riff on a little bit what Mina was saying, it has classical themes that never date. And although it seems relatively old-fashioned, the wrestling match is still the same. And Mina articulated that, I thought, very elegantly. That how do you find yourself? I mean, Aladdin is all about how to find the authentic self within the self, right? And all the challenges that come on the way. And that is more, it seems like it's more treacherous now than it ever has been. So I think that's the main essence of the film. But in terms of, I think, to use a rather pretentious word, in my canon of work.
Oh, you got a canon? A canon of work? Oh, that's yeah. In America, we don't have canons.
As I say, at the moment, it's my favourite.
I also think Alan is hoping to win his first Oscar. Everyone,
just to remind you, among his
one day, right?
That was my fifth and sixth. Yes.
We have to remind everyone, Alan's won, correct me if I'm wrong, 8 Oscars?
Yes.
He's won 8 Oscars, guys. 8 Oscars.
So just to be clear, if Guy and Alan have a cannon of work, I have like a BB gun. A water gun of work.
Yeah, I just got some movies I made. No, I'm excited about this one. It is, you know, I'm 30 years into my career now.
Into your canon.
Into my canon.
Oeuvre.
So to have an opportunity, you know, to do something that's still unique and different. It's like the singing, rapping, dancing, acting, drama, comedy, the action, like to all all of those things, to be able to do that in one movie, you know, and once you go blue, you know.
There's no going back. All right, who's got another question out there? Right here.
I've got 2 questions, one for Mr. Smith. Can you tell a little bit more about what it's like to play a character partly CGI? You're playing a blue cloud all the time. Is it difficult where you're bare-chested all the time? And Mr. Ritchie, I'm from Netherlands, so I have to ask, we missed Jafar today. Can you tell a little bit more about Marwan, working with Marwan, and recreating such an iconic character as Jafar with him? Thank you so much.
It is absolutely a spectacular way to spend a day as an actor when most of your character is going to be CGI, because it's no hair and makeup. You know, you get to show up and everybody else, you know, has to actually do a scene, but you just get, you know, you're there and you're off camera. So it is a wonderful way to spend the time on a movie set. Also, I think it also added to my ability to be able to be present for everyone else on the set.
Yeah, and I want to say something that quick because Will's not going to say it, but a lot of actors, when they are doing CGI, they don't necessarily have to show up to set every day because they don't have to be there. And Will was there every day, reading his lines off camera because we wanted to get the most authentic performance. So he didn't have to do that, but he was there.
Well done, Will. You're not a diva.
And just a word on Marwan?
So Marwan. Yeah, Marwan, it took us some time to find Marwan, incidentally. But I think we came up with a character, in no small part, this was Marwan's idea, that there was a correlation between Aladdin and Jafar, that they came from similar origins, and one had chosen one path and one was oscillating between one path and t'other. Nice word, oscillating.
Oscillating. Is that from your canon? That word come out your canon?
I thought it was Will that rapped. The wordsmith.
So what happened is that Jafar, who's played quite a sophisticated Jafar in this one, Marwan, that there was a correlation, and so he could relate to Aladdin, and they both came from a similar past. But it was really Marwan's idea that there needed to be, so there should be a correlation, there should be a similarity and a sophistication to that character, but one chose the external route of finding oneself, and the other one ultimately chose oneself to rely on, and that's really what the dynamic of the film is about. In no small part, that came from Marwan. We love Marwan. I don't know where he is at the moment. He's clearly too busy to be here.